Council will call the meeting order. For the record, it is April 4th, 2023 at 4:32 PM. We will begin this work session with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Perot.
Here.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilman Borton.
Here.
Councilman Hoagland.
Here.
Mayor Simison.
Here. Next item is the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland.
we are going to vacate item number 24, the executive session that is no longer needed. So I move approval of the, adoption of the amended agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the amended agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted as amended. Next up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland.
we've had a request to act on number 11 separately. So I would ask that we adopt approve the consent agenda for the mayor to sign and clerk to attest with the exception of item number 11.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus item 11. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. Item 11 was moved from the consent agenda, so we will turn this over to Mr. Neri.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so we had a request late today from the developer asking to withdraw this application rather than be denied. The impact of that is if an application is denied, the project cannot be resubmitted for a year if it's substantially the same. And that decision is normally made at a staff level at the planning department or whether or not it's substantially the same. If he withdraws it, he can reapply sooner than a year. Certainly, he heard the message pretty strongly that the way it was currently configured wasn't acceptable, but that's really the only difference. If it's denied, it can't be resubmitted for a year if it's substantially the same project. If it's withdrawn, he can resubmit sooner than that with whatever he submits. So it's your decision. What we told him is we would tell you this tonight. If you'd like to move it out 2 weeks and get something in writing from them explaining why or what their reasons or whatever you would like to hear from them as to why they want to withdraw it, we can certainly communicate that to them and have it on in 2 weeks. If not, you can certainly move action tonight if you wish.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hoagland.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on here. I suspect they might be trying to do something different, repackage this and maybe work with adjacent landowners. And I don't know if they're purchasing property or what, but I know it was unanimous that it was not going to fly with the way it was. So if they come back, it would have to be somewhat different. So I'm willing to give them that opportunity. I don't know if they need to come back and explain anything.
Yeah, normally, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Hogo, normally we request a specific request in writing. So right now, I think we had an email from a admin at the developer's company, but I think we'd want something at least a little bit more concrete than that. But normally we do want something in writing because that requires council action as well to accept the withdrawal.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hoagland.
So, Mr. Neri, what we would do is just kind of remove it for now and then set it at another meeting time for that.
Yeah, I would anticipate 2
explanation.
weeks just because it's a little tight to put it on for next week, but we can put it on for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
So, Bill, even if they were still to reapply, they would have to go through the traditional process, planning and zoning commission, neighborhood meetings, all that, like it would be a new application. They just would not have to wait for a full year.
Correct. It would be a completely new application, new fees, new meetings. Yeah, everything would start over. They would just withdraw this one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Council. I mean, honestly, I don't know how, I think that personally, I don't know what you could do that wouldn't be substantially different from a resubmittal. If they add a secondary access, if that's all they did, would you have considered that? I mean, that's still the same project, just with a secondary access. So that would be my one question. Or do we want to get into this habit of, is this a one-off or is this a direction you guys would prefer to go in the future? Well, then makes that 1 year resubmittal process basically you're null and void because they could come back with the exact same project with the secondary access.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Pro.
I haven't noticed that this has been a common way for applicants to handle, you know, starting their process over. So I don't think it's gonna start this, a wave of this, but I would recommend that we perhaps look at our policy or process. My understanding is that there's no ordinance that doesn't allow them to withdraw at a particular time in the process, but maybe that's something that we consider for conversation at a later date.
Whatever you all decide. And
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Borton.
put it on in a couple weeks, get it in writing, let's complete our process. They can make their request. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why we would not close this one out. The only reason not to is so they could reapply in a substantially similar way, which would be wasteful. So with that understanding, they could still make their request and that's what you described as our appropriate process, get it in writing. They can officially request it, but it's up to us to act. And normally we never would. We'd close out the application and welcome to apply with something different.
Thank you for saying that the way that I think I was hoping it would come out, but it didn't.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland.
Mr. Neri, then if they come before us, give their explanation, we would still have these findings of fact in front of us to take action upon. So if we don't find it sufficient, then we can still deny it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Hoagland, that's exactly what I recommend. I would recommend we move this. Mr. Johnson, do we have a meeting scheduled for the 18th?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Neri, we do. Yes.
Oh, I would recommend scheduling, move to the 18th. We'll leave the findings on. I will reach out to them tomorrow and ask them to submit in writing whatever they want to do as to why they want to withdraw it. And you can consider that before you then make a decision on this.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Borton.
with that, if it necessitates a motion, I'd move to table item 11, the findings of fact on the Meridian OZ apartments that was moved from the consent and place it on the agenda for April 18th.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You guys have it, and the item is tabled till the 18th. Okay, with that, we will move on to item 21, which is a commission report from the Meridian Historical Preservation Commission. And it's over to Chairman Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to come before you today. For those that don't know me, my name is Blaine Johnston. I am president of the Meridian Historic Preservation Commission. I'd like to recognize those members of our commission, Jody Alt, Destiny Hart, Pam Jagosh, and our youth commissioner, Jack Keller. We do have a couple of vacancies right now, and we hope to have those filled shortly. National Registry, one of our biggest tasks is to locate those buildings, structures, places that are of importance to the city of Meridian. At the present time, we have the Meridian Speedway in that nomination process. It has gone to state SHPO, State Historical Preservation Office. They've in turn submitted that application to the National Park Service. NPS has some questions. They've returned it to SHPO, and SHPO at this time answering those questions, and we hope to hear something sometime this year as to whether or not that nomination has been accepted or denied. May is always Preservation Month. And we had a good Preservation Month last year, excuse me. Our commission members hosted tours of historic properties in downtown Meridian. We'd also like to thank the Pine Street School for their help with the tour. That is always an interesting place to go for our tours, and the public really enjoyed it. And we also encourage not only the members of the city council, but the public to download our app, and they can take these tours virtually at any time. HPC projects. We are currently contracting with the Arrow Rock Group to conduct a survey of the North Main Street area of Meridian, as suggested by the State Historic Preservation Office. In September of 2022, TAG Historical Research Consulting completed the first phase of a two-phase reconnaissance level survey of this area. They surveyed 134 properties during this initial survey. There are 5 properties that have potential eligibility for listing on the National List of Historic Places. They've also listed another 36 buildings that contribute to a potential historic district. At the present time, Meridian has no historic districts. We had an old one, the old Mittlider Farm south of town, but that's no longer in existence. HPC projects. We are continuing our projects with whole films to document areas and buildings associated with the city of Meridian. These virtual tours include Broadway Street, Pine Street School, exterior and interior, Black Cat Farm, the Meridian Speedway, the History Center, and several locations along Idaho Street between 4th and 5th. Also Highway 16. And there's a link here for whole films so that the public can see that at any time. Our social media. The Historic Preservation Commission continues its effort to encourage the public to follow Meridian history on both Facebook and Instagram. Our posts highlight our history, both culture and historic buildings. Our accounts continue to grow and the numbers of followers and the number of people that comment on those posts. We've received quite a few comments lately, and we do our best to answer those questions that come up when they are asked. What's next? In 2023, we will continue our social media outreach on both Facebook and Instagram. We will continue our efforts to have the Meridian Speedway listed on the National List of Historic Places, working with SHPO. We are exploring additional sites that may be eligible for listing, and we hope by this time next year, we'll be in the process of a new historic registry nomination for either the Zamzos Granary or other projects as recommended by that survey. And hopefully by September of next year, we'll have this, or September of this year, we'll have it completed. The commission will also be looking at updating the 2014 Meridian Historic Preservation Plan as recommended by SHPO. We're in the planning process now and we'll be applying for grants from SHPO to help fund this project. I would like to thank the mayor's office, city council, city staff for all that they do for us. It's our pleasure to be able to serve you and the citizens of Meridian in preserving our history. Without the support we receive from the city, we would not be able to do the work that we've been tasked to do. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Blaine. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Pro.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. First of all, I'd like to show my appreciation for your commitment to this committee. I know it's not the most, it's not the most exciting topic, but it's very, very appreciated and an important part of our city. I do have a question for you about the Speedway. So I know when a property goes into a historic district, there's some limitation on its future use and any modifications that are made to the structure. When a property goes on the historic register, is that similar? Are there limitations to what they're able to do to improve the property, or if the owners were to make changes, does that affect them negatively?
Yes and no. If a project or if a site has been listed on the National Registry, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Councilwoman Perot. The answer is yes and no. An owner can do anything they want to do once a property has been listed. I'll take the Speedway, for example. If they want to change out bleachers, they can change out the bleachers. They want to add a building, they can add a building. The registry does not stop an owner from doing anything they want to do to that property. The no side is it may affect that listing if they substantially change a structure or part of that, then that listing may go away in the future. But once it's listed, and an owner can do whatever they'd like to do to it. I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Neri.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Roy, I can also add, Meridian hasn't created historic districts and hasn't created any ordinances around a historic district. Like in Boise, they have a number of historic districts that have rules on some of the things Mr. Johnson talked about on improvements, changes, things like that. And we have chosen to this point to not create that type of structure in our code, rather than more just recognition of these historic properties, but not necessarily restricting their future use.
Council, additional questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Yeah, thanks, Blaine. Always appreciate your updates. And I had an opportunity to bump into Brandon a few weeks ago, and he sure just praised the commission for your work, and he's really enjoyed working on this project. My question is maybe for you to give us some flavor for the commission's perspective. You know, from time to time, the council will receive an email or communication from a resident in opposition to a particular development application, and their comments are typically that they believe that a building on that property is of a historical nature. Do you think that we should be sending those requests to your commission, or how should the city respond when we receive those types of inquiries?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Commissioner Kavanagh. It's hard to answer that question. Personally, myself, I would say yes, I would like to see those. I try to look at all the applications that come through planning and zoning and look at them before planning and zoning, and you guys have a chance to look at them. If I see a building on there that has some potential, then we will probably reach out to the owner, at a minimum, photograph it and document it. And I guess that's a discussion between HPC and City Council as to the second part of that. Do you want that as part of your process? If you get comments from the public that's saying this building is listed, does it need to go before HPC? That's a requirement that you guys are going to have to put forth. I can't answer that question for you. I hope that answers your question.
And maybe if I could add on to that, just from some conversations that I've had with the chair, is they are out there proactively identifying these items. And, there are some development applications coming through on rather large farm properties in certain parts where they're working with the current property owner, trying to look at what can or should they be doing with some of the facilities on that property. So it's a little bit of both, I think, proactive, and same with the report that's being looked at to help identify where those may exist to help them in that part. So they're trying to be proactive is the best way I could say it, but whether or not they catch everything or everything's big enough, that lateral that someone identifies, there was the wood that was used to place down for the lateral that came from the tree that was really important on the town square, that may not be caught in their processes. If someone identified that in a hearing application as an example. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next up, we will have Jessica Peters with the Meridian Arts Commission annual update.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having me here today. I'm Jessica Peters. I'm the chair of the Meridian Arts Commission, and I'm going to tell you about everything that the Meridian Arts Commission accomplished in 2022. We've got a lot to get through, so I'll try to get through it quickly. So our mission statement for the Meridian Arts Commission is to develop, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts and to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. And this slide shows the commissioners that we had last year and this year. As you can see, we've had some changes in our commissioners and our staff. And we have 3 new commissioners that have been nominated, and we're hoping to have those approved soon. Looking forward to working with them on our commission. So I'm going to start with our Meridian Art and Public Spaces program. This is a program that was authorized by city ordinance in 2015. And through the ordinance, City Council allocates 50 cents per Meridian resident with a cap of $50,000 per year for identifying and developing projects for public art on city property. And last year, that cap was removed. So now our funding for our Meridian Art and Public Spaces program can continue to grow as our population grows. So really appreciate your support with that. We started a new public art identity, park identity project in 2021 at the 5 Mile Creek Pathway Trail Hub site. And we continued working on that project last year. And through a process for a request for qualifications and a request for proposals, we selected Water Metrics, which is a mosaic sculpture created by Eileen Gay from Nevada. And the call to artists that we used had more applicants than Meridian has previously seen. So the word is getting out. We have a great place for public art here in Meridian. And we are looking forward to installing that piece this summer. And here's a little bit more of a close-up. And again, these are mosaics. So if you picture lots of tiny tiles covering the surfaces of these, the inside is supposed to look like a waterfall, and the outside features some images with tiles that are common images for Idaho. So we have potato plants, we have some cattails and reeds, we've got the mountain bluebird, which is our state bird, and a red-winged blackbird. So if you've traveled on the 5 Mile Creek Pathway at all, you've probably seen some of these actual plants and animals living over there on the creek. And this is a mock-up of what it will look like when it's ready. So these are about 10 feet tall, I believe, and you will be able to see them from 10 Mile Road. They will not be hidden. So next, I'm going to talk about our Meridian mural series. You probably remember the first mural that was installed, painted by Ben Conkle at Meridian Cycles. We had a public unveiling for that in the fall of 21. And our second mural was installed at Unbound Library during Meridian Art Week last year, and we had that unveiling last fall. And then our third mural is planned for Meridian Pool. This is going to be painted by Sector 17. It's the same artists that did the mural over on the Zamzo's property right next door here. And I just saw on social media that they have just started preparing the wall for painting. So that will be going up pretty soon, and we're going to have that unveiling this spring. The next public art project is our murals at Tully Skate Park. This was an opportunity for a professional artist, Miguel Almeida, to partner with a youth apprentice, Macy Ratzesberger, who's a student at the Idaho Fine Arts Academy. And they worked together to paint a couple of murals at the Tully Skate Park. And here are the final results. Miguel's piece is on the left there, and previously that space had been kind of a faded old mural with some graffiti. So obviously his work really spruces up the place. And then Macy's work on the right was a great opportunity for her to have more public exposure to her artwork. And Miguel, you've probably seen some of his work in the Treasure Valley. He's become pretty popular, and I think Macy is doing some more work as well. So that was a great project. And our final public art project is our traffic box series. This is ongoing. And we wrapped 10 traffic boxes last year. You can see the list of all of the locations and the pieces that were wrapped. And these usually have a life of about 5 to 7 years. So we are getting to the point where some of the old wraps they were kind of faded, they needed to be rewrapped. And so we had 4 of the pieces last year to replace some old faded wraps that needed to be replaced. And three of these reps were sponsored by the Meridian Development Corporation. So we really appreciate their ongoing support of this program. We also had concerts on Broadway, another year, great year for that. We brought in Smooth Avenue, High Street, and Soul Patch. As you can see from the photographs, lots of people came to hang out, enjoy the music and dance, and we just had great attendance and lots of feedback about how much people enjoyed it. We also presented Tammy DeWeird's Awards in the Arts. So we presented four winners. Randy B. Funk, who was a former arts commissioner, youth commissioner, received the award for student excellence in the arts. Cecile Brock was recognized with the Support of the Arts Award. Mariana Jimenez Edwards received the award for arts and education, and Dwight Williams received the Excellence in the Arts Award. We also had a great Meridian Art Week. Our growing in popularity art drop. Everyone really loves that every year. We always have lots of people find cool art around the city. Very popular chalk art competition, live music, classes. Again, that mural that was painted at the library. The plein air painters of Idaho were hanging around town and folks could stop and watch their process as they painted sort of the landscape around town. We had a community art party, which we partnered with the city Parks and Rec Department, and then our concerts on Broadway. We also had 11 initial point gallery exhibits, and we have 11 instead of 12 because our December exhibit rolls into January as well. So we had 172 artists, multiple artist organizations and group exhibits, the West Ada School District Show of Youth Art, and the College of Western Idaho Art Faculty exhibit. And we have a new exhibit now. This is the Treasure Valley Artist Alliance. They show every year in the gallery, and they always have a color theme. So this year, their color theme is yellow. Lots of great artworks incorporating that color into those pieces. Our opening reception is happening as we speak. So encourage you all to go up there and check it out. Lots of great work happening there. If you want to follow along with what we're doing, you can find us on social media. We're Meridian Arts Commission on Facebook and at Meridian Arts on Instagram. So I'll kind of skip this because I think we've already gone through everything and want to wrap this up. So I'll just mention quickly our goals for 2023. We're going to continue doing all the great things that we've been doing with our murals, our public art, our gallery, engaging the community through Art Week and the Concerts on Broadway series. We're going to continue supporting our Traffic Box series. We have a new park identity project over at Discovery Park happening. And we are also expanding our support for the performing arts with a call for performing arts projects. That's a new call to artists this year. We're also going to present the Tammy DeWeird's Awards in the Arts again. And we're also focusing on increasing our inclusive programming through representation of diverse populations and marketing to underserved and underrepresented populations. Finally, I just want to thank City Council, Mayor Simison, and the city staff for everything that you all do for us. Without you all, we wouldn't be able to fulfill our mission, and really the arts help advance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. And we couldn't do all of that without you. So thank you again for your support, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jessica. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Board.
Jessica, can you go back one slide onto the priorities? Number 12, can you just comment briefly on the plan to accomplish that? Is it in next year's report? Might we have a list and a plan of?
Well, that's what we're hoping for. So we are still working on the details for that. I think in order to develop the full art plan that we think the commission, the public art program deserves, I think we would need more funding for that, but we are currently, we keep kind of a list, ongoing list of the project ideas that we have in mind, and in our public art subcommittee, we review those priorities and identify when we have opportunities to begin a new project, which one's what is our priority for that? So.
Councilman Born.
So, I mean, is the plan to really to cultivate that in-house amongst the existing commissioners as opposed to seeking outside help? Is that outside help to come up with a plan or opportunities that maybe the commissioners don't recognize, or just trying to get a sense of what the process would be?
Right. Well, so the Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, City Council, our ideal situation would be to have that outside help that is currently outside of our budget. So considering that, we are identifying ways that we can achieve that in-house, but it's not our preferred approach.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Pearl.
thank you very much for the presentation. I had the opportunity to attend several of the events that you mentioned. I'm curious about, said you're looking for the opportunity for additional performing arts presentations. Have you discussed partnering with like the chamber or the city parks department on events they already have going on, in which individuals can come and display what they're doing? Like the Oktoberfest, for example, is great large event, and just kind of doing that. So then that maybe helps some of the cost in addition to gives the public exposure to some of the local artists.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for that question. It's not something that we have discussed in depth. So when I referenced support for the performing arts, in the past, we have just provided funding to the Treasure Valley Children's Theater solely. And this year we opened that up to other performing arts organizations in the area. And so we used a call to artists so organizations could apply for funding. So instead of supporting just one organization, we're hoping to support more, but that's a great idea to look at other opportunities for things that are already happening in the city and identify ways to partner.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hoagland.
And one of the things I enjoy, concerts on Broadway, which coming back. And I noticed, they used to have them, I think, one in June, one in July, one in August, and then you guys moved to, I think, take advantage of the little cooler evenings. So is that working out okay? Are you still having good attendance for that?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, yes. As you can see, I think last year was maybe our best attended yet. Seems like word is getting out that that's a great opportunity for the community to come together and enjoy some live music. So I do think that having the later performances does help. The sun is a little bit lower. It's, like you said, not quite so hot out.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
excellent presentation. Pretty excited to see the final artwork on the pathway on 5 Mile Creek that's going to connect all the way from 10 Mile Locust Grove. I mean, that's a long time coming, and it's going to be great to have that. Thank you and everyone else for all the hard work you put in.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Born.
I love the commission and arts in our community. So I just also want to say thank you. And my question on number 12 is just encouraging you to think broadly. A successful arts program in our community is one driven not by what 7 of us might want necessarily, right? But encouraging you to support artistic endeavors in ways that I might not like, or someone else might not like up here, but there's members in our community that are served by it and appreciate it, whether it's performing arts or visual arts. That's next level stuff for our community. So as easy as it might be to fall within a more narrow field of delivering the arts, continue to stretch and challenge us and encourage us to support arts in ways we haven't before. It's perhaps going uphill at times to do so, but I think that's really our obligation to the arts community, is to try to just make sure we can encourage and promote in broader ways. That's going to help your commission be successful. So thanks for pushing us and continue to do so.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for that comment. I do want to point out a couple of things. First of all, the Tully Park projects, the skate park, that was kind of a newer idea that we came up with sort of mid-year. I have to credit Cassandra for that. That was great. So I think it helps to have a member of the arts community leading us. She can come up with those ideas and we can all share ideas. The other idea, as part of a larger public arts plan that we're hoping for, is to conduct a survey from the community and find out what interests, members of the community might have, what ideas they might have. We did conduct a survey in 2020. Those responses may have been limited because it was sort of the start of the pandemic and folks had other things on their minds. And so that was something that we were hoping to enlist outside help with, to develop and conduct that survey, to gather ideas from the greater community and find out what we could be doing, what folks want to see, and how we can best represent the community within our art.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica, and council. You'll have an opportunity to expand the Arts Commission by 50%, at least with their current members, to get them back up to full speed next week. On our agenda, I think, is when those recommendations will be coming forward. So we're going to give you a full team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Cassandra, for all you do to assist them in these endeavors. So with that, we'll move on to item 3, which is our compensation committee update, which will be led by Mr. Lavoie. And in the audience, we have several members of the compensation committee team that are here as well, both over here on our left, here on our right, and up here. So Todd, take it away.
Appreciate that, Mayor. Members of the council, again, appreciate the time to present to you the work that we've been working on. As Robert stated, the community members are here, and also online is Mike from the consulting company Gallagher. They specialize in compensation. So Mike is online, available to us or to you as well. As soon as I get this to work. There we go. Sorry about that. So what we have for you today is an update that we promised you. I presented this budget, or not budget, I apologize, here I am talking about budget. I presented this compensation plan to you on March 22nd via an email. The plan has not changed since that date. So the presentation and the talking points in that email are still true. I'm going to go over those exact same talking points that I presented to you on March 22nd's email. So again, this project has been a collaboration between the members that are here today, plus Mike from the compensation company Gallagher. We've been working with them for the past 2 years. You approved a contract for us 2 years ago to embark on this endeavor to overhaul the city's compensation program. Last year, we presented to you and with the guidance of Gallagher and Mike from Gallagher on phase 1. Phase 1 was to establish the city's market approach of a minimum of 50% salary. We would adjust our salaries to at least 50% of the market rate of the 14 agencies that we gathered from the Northwest region. So that was for phase 1. We presented that to you, spoke to you, and we implemented that as of October 1. So right now, the city has all employees, general employees, let me rephrase that. This study is for the general employees, not for the police step plan or the fire union negotiations. This is for the general employees. Effective October 1, we moved all salaries up to at least 50% of the market rate as we presented to you last year. During that presentation, we promised to you and our commitment to the employees that would continue to establish the compensation program. And that's what we have for you today. So following the guidance of Mike from Gallagher, our compensation consultant, what we have presented to you is what we're going to look for your acceptance for on a purpose, the overview and the goals of this compensation plan program. So again, first thing we'll discuss with you today is the purpose of the compensation program. You know, following Mike from Gallagher's guidance, these principles are best practices within the compensation arena. So we did rely on Mike to give us these guiding principles. And these principles are going to discuss, what I'm going to discuss with you is, the first one's going to be competitive. We wanted to have a principle statement for our compensation plan that would make sure that the city's compensation plan over the next 10 years can stay and maintain a competitive position within the Northwest region. Another purpose statement that we wanted to make sure that the compensation plan had was long-term. And what we mean by that is a commitment to our employees. We want to make sure that we commit to our employees of a compensation plan that's going to be fundable and market-driven. Again, that kind of talked about the next bullet point, which is fundable. We wanted to make sure that whatever program we developed with the guidance of Mike and Gallagher is that it was going to be fundable. We need to make sure that we can fund this for at least the next 10 years. We wanted a program that could be transparent, or that is transparent. We want the employees, we want council, we want managers, we want everybody to be able to understand what this compensation plan looks like and will do for them for the next 10 years. And the last principle that we would like to present to you is going to be the ease of use. Again, we need this program to be understandable by the employees, but also by HR, so that they can manage and administer a program that is easy to understand by all involved. So those are the 5 purpose principle statements that we worked with Gallagher to propose to you for our overarching compensation plan. Again, now I'm going to talk about some of the details of the plan itself. And these were presented to you in the March 22nd email. So the first item that we wanted to update you on or change was the step plan. This plan is going to adopt a step plan that's very similar to what public safety has used for years. It is a deviation from our current kinds of levels approach in theory. Again, it wasn't a step plan, but you had a beginning and an end. This is just a more defined step plan. This step plan does have 15 steps in it. The step plan does offer a 25% growth opportunity. If you start with the city and you stick with the city doing that particular job for 15 years, we will commit to that employee a 25% growth opportunity. Step increases between steps vary from 0.2% to 1.83%. Those are the step variations between steps of the 15 years. Let's see. So that would be so that's a change for us on the step plan. Again, we want this to be market-based. We would like for Gallagher, our consulting company, to continue to make sure that we maintain a market competitive compensation plan. So at least every 2 to 3 years, we'll work with them to go out and gather data and make sure we're still market competitive. Previous plans, we did not do it as often and we got a little bit behind. We want this plan to make sure we stay on top of it so we do not get behind, and we want to maintain that market competitiveness. The next item is COLA, cost of living adjustment. We would like the compensation plan that we're presenting to you to adopt an annual COLA adjustment. The previous plans, we did not do that. If you looked at the last 20 years, we only adjusted the compensation plan 9 times for inflationary considerations. And that's why we got so far behind. 2022, we adjusted it 13 to 15% because we had to play catch up. We would like to have a plan that puts COLA into effect on an annual basis for discussion so that we don't get that far behind. So we want to make sure we keep our employees' paychecks whole. And then if we do the COLA with the market study every 2 to 3 years, Jessica, you asked this question in the email. This will solve the problem of getting too far behind because we're incrementally adjusting the market rate, our market. And then every 2 to 3 years, we ask Gallagher, how does our data look compared to the market? Are we in good shape? Awesome. If not, what adjustments do we need to make? So we think with these 2 additional tools in the toolbox, we shouldn't get to the point where we're making a presentation to you. I need to adjust it 15%. Hopefully we don't do that again. So that's what COLA represents. We want that to be a factor so that we can have a market competitive compensation plan. Longevity is another component that we would like to add to our compensation plan. Right now, this compensation plan is based on 15 steps as I presented. So the question is, what happens to those employees that meet the ceiling of a 15-step program? Those employees will still continue to get annual COLA adjustments. So it's not like their salaries ever freeze. If you offer 2% COLA adjustment, they get 2%. So their salaries don't freeze. They will continue to grow with inflation in the market. We would like to add an additional component to that called a longevity bonus. In this case, we're presenting a $1,000 longevity bonus to all employees treated equally, saying, thank you for sticking with us. And here's a longevity bonus of $1,000 if they happen to be in that seat for 15 years. And then the last item is the penetration. This is going to solve our compression issue. So instead of hiring everybody at step 0, so using an example, Bill and I would be both lawyers at step 0. He's got 20 years experience. I have 1. That wouldn't be fair to him. So Bill should be at the cap and I should be at the entry point. So I'd be step 0 and he'll be step 15. So we would recognize Bill's longevity and go, Bill, you're going to be compensated at step 15. Todd, you're a 1-year lawyer. You're going to be step 0. And that is how we're going to solve the compensation issue the compression issue for tenure in the current job that you're doing for the city of Meridian. So that's the overview of the major components of the compensation plan changes from what we had, I guess 3 years ago. So again, anytime, please ask me any questions. Again, this is the general overview. See if I missed any talking points. We got Jessica's, we got answered yours about the COLA. So those are the overarching ones. I know we have some more questions, Jessica, that you asked today. I have those in the presentation I'll address for you, but please anytime engage, ask us. We have everybody here. So again, that was the overview. The question is, what goals are we trying to achieve? We're trying to increase our tenure. Right now, our average tenure is 7 years. Our goal with this program is to go to 10. That's our goal. Obviously, we have longer term goals, but this is our goal right now. In 10 years, maybe let's make it 12, but right now our goal is 10 years. And we believe by adjusting or creating the step plan and acknowledging time in seat, the penetration approach, and having a modified bell curve in 15 years of step for 25, we believe we can have that goal or attain that goal of going from 7 to 10 years. That's our goal for this. Next item is the commitment to employees. This program shows the employees as clear as possible what we're going to commit to them if they commit to us. If I'm going to be your CFO for the next 15 years, I can see exactly what your commitment to me is from a compensation standpoint, clear as day. Talent attraction. Our current or previous program, we entered the market at 20% of the market rate. We're starting at 50%. So that 30% increase, and this will address one of Jessica's questions, by increasing our floor 30%, we believe we are now more attractive to the candidates out there. We're not hiring at 20, we're hiring at 52. That's intuitive to us. That's should automatically bring people to us because we're hiring at a 50% market rate. We're also going to now allow people to grow to 75% higher or 25% growth rate with us. So we believe that commitment will continue to retain the talent with the city of Meridian. And then increasing tenure, which or the maintain market competitiveness, reviewing this every 2 to 3 years, making sure our compensation consultant Gallagher is working with us every single year on this, making sure we're presenting a strong, solid plan to our employees and reviewing it every 2 to 3 years. So those were the goals of this these changes. So again, in general, in review, our final recommendation to you, looking for acceptance so that we can work with Gallagher, so we can work with HR department, so we can work with the legal department to start building those guidelines, those the rules, the regulations to a program. We would like to see the principals accepted that we create a 25% growth opportunity for our employees. If they commit to us, we're committing to them with 25% growth opportunity over 15 years. Have a step plan that's defined, easy to understand, of 15 steps. Working with Gallagher, we're going to make sure that we have our penetration, our job and placement, prevent the compression issues by getting people in the right place based on their experience doing the job that they're doing at the city of Meridian. Adopt a longevity bonus program for those that are in the same job for 15 years. And then make sure we're staying on top of our market data every 2 to 3 years, asking the consultant company to update it, and then adopt a COLA adjustment, cost of living, based on the consumer price index. You know, the average, just for your information, 20 years of on average, for the last 20 years, on average, is United States of America experiences a 2.44 inflation rate in adjustment every single year on average. Obviously, the last 2 years have been much different. But again, we've also had 2 years of negative inflation over the last 20 years. So again, we're just looking at, we want to stay on top of inflation as opposed to what we did last time. And that's what got us in trouble. Again, those are the guiding principles of following, Gallagher's experience, best practices. What we have in front of you is a best practice approach supported and presented to us by Gallagher in collaboration with the committee members. Again, we're all here to answer any questions that you may have. And we're looking for acceptance of these principles so we can start working with Gallagher to build the guidelines so we can make this effective October 1 of 2023. This is a commitment we made to the employees. We're following up on our commitment to the employees with this presentation. We all stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it very much. I'll just add on a few comments and see if any of the other committee members want to come up and add on anything. And at least from my perspective, this is once every 3 years, go through and evaluate it. It helps us balance certain things where we have the police step plan and we have the fire department contract negotiations. So this would be just put into that every 3rd year. Helps us, I think, from a long-term financial budgeting process by doing that as well. In that regards. Fundable, that was something that was important to me. I know that there's been compensation committees that have had discussions before this one. Those have been robust discussions that I was not part of. But I want to make sure that we were able to actually bring something back that was going to something we could come forward and say, we can do this and we can fund it. Is that's an important part. Is it perfect? Well, we'll answer that right now. No. Is our current compensation program perfect? I think that you can look out and see the other people shaking their head. The answer is no. It's created its own set of unique challenges. And I think that that's going to be true with any plan. Any plan that you have in place for a long time is going to create challenges and get certain inequities in place for a wide variety of reasons. Some of them are systematic. Some of them are supervisor decisions in different departments and how things are applied. And so you have people saying, well, someone in this department makes more money than me in this department. Well, that could be a result of how a supervisor chooses to apply their ratings under our current system, which is based upon performance. But not everyone views performance the same way. And I know that's been some of the conversations with, that I've been having is, but it is a dramatic change in some regards, but it is alignment with how we apply towards our other employees as well. So I just want to at least share that from my viewpoint as well, that I'm personally very excited about this. There may be some different viewpoints or tweaks that we could make in that case. To me, so long as it's fundable and it meets those other philosophies, that's great. If we didn't want 15 years, we don't want to do 12 years. You didn't want to do 25%, you want to do 20, you want to do 30%. Again, as long as we can fund it, You know, those are things, but really it's the concept that we presented seemed to pass your muster for where we want to go. And I can say, you know, as we're preparing to get the budget, this year's budget has these elements worked into it. And if we aren't going to go this direction, then we just need to know it quickly so we can come up with another approach to address especially the compression issue, which we said we were going to come back and address. And, you know, maybe we do that outside of adopted changes in a plan, but that's still going to be, we're gonna have to come up with something at that point in time to address that issue. And we just want to make sure that we're moving this process forward and meeting the goals of council in the past who didn't want to have placeholder numbers. They wanted to have real numbers for real execution. And at least with this setup, we can deliver that in this year's budget for the council. Any other members of the committee have anything else that they would like to add at this time? Okay, perfect. So council, with that, I'll turn it over
Mr. Mayor,
to you, Councilman Overton.
first off, Todd and committee members, awesome job. I'm saying that as the newest member sitting in this seat, but someone who spent decades sitting in your seat. And just a little known fact, a lot of people don't think about this, but in the police department, we had 2 pay scales. Sometimes we forget that police officers had a step plan. We had 20, 30 plus civilian employees who were on the same step plan or the same pay scale as the rest of the city. And when it started to fall behind, we ended up with some pretty disgruntled employees watching one step plan working very effectively year after year, and another one that would fall behind. On January 3rd, not knowing this was something that was being worked on, I said in that night when I was appointed, I wanted to see that we could hire the best, but retain the best. And I'm super excited to see this plan. It mirrors a lot of what the police step plan has today. It has a lot of the same things built into it. You should be able to offer a very competitive wage to bring your employees in and also have the ability to continue to pay them and retain them. Nothing is more frustrating than all the years before we had a good pay scale in the police department, watching really good talent walk out the door. I know there's other parts of the city that are seeing this now. So I would echo what the mayor said about funding it. That's very important. And if we can fund this, I think you're on the right track. And I think we come up with a great program to carry forward for the rest of the city.
Thank you, John. Just a reminder, you do have Mike from our consulting company. He is online if you have specific questions for him.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Pearl.
might be a few steps behind Councilman Overton. Back to some maybe more simplistic questions on my part. Just trying to wrap my head around all of the implications for the staff and for our budget. So I want to understand how the 15 years came into play. Was that a recommendation from the consultant based on information from other organizations where that has worked successfully? Was that just sounds like a great place to start based on where we want our tenure to be? As the mayor just mentioned, you know, we don't have to do it at 15, we can do it at 10 or 12. So I just kind of want to understand the thinking behind why 15 was chosen and how that benefits the city in the long run.
Sure, no, fair question. Again, Mike, I think you're online, but
Yep.
it was a compromise between, or it wasn't a compromise. It was a discussion based on best practices, and I'll go ahead. Mike, can you address that for Councilwoman Perot?
Yeah, appreciate the question, Councilwoman. Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, thanks very much for allowing me to be here. The kind of comes from best practices and making sure that we have a range spread that's going to allow folks to progress through the range. You don't want the range spread to be too narrow where people top out too fast as well. So that is a concern, thinking about the average number of steps that go into it. It's gonna vary across the country in different regions from our perspective. Some range spreads are gonna be very narrow. When we go a little bit further out west, out in California, it means they have 3, 4, 5 steps to the maximum, and those are done every year. think that's maxes out a little bit too fast, and it also depends on where you're placing that market competitive target. The city did move to that 50th percentile and say, let's start there, let's move at that level, and we're developing a range kind of around that a little bit. So start a little bit below, move to that level, and then also move above. So the range spread encompasses that full market. And as the example Todd brought about, like making sure that you have the room to account for some of those differences in the experience that some folks might be bringing in, folks that are there. So you have that room to have alleviate pay compression for based on the 10-year performance longevity of individuals as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Pro.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that explanation. Just two more other quick questions. And the compression issue, if I'm understanding that correctly, in phase 2, like I had asked about, that's basically bringing everybody's been brought up to 50%. So that's bringing staff that have been here longer up to the place that they currently are. So if their current wage is really at like what step 6 would be because of the length of time that they've been here, then that's bringing them up from 50% to wherever they would be at. Is that what that?
Got it. Perfect.
Okay, so that's understanding then why that dollar figure estimated for phase 2 is about 3 times more than
Got it.
year
You got it.
2. Okay, all right.
Nailed it.
Good, great. Connected the dots on that one. So then there are some members of our staff that will be at step 15 as of today.
Less than 1% of your current staff will be there. Yes.
Okay. Have you already then gone through and figured out how many will be in the first 4 years or first 5 years, second 5 years, third
Yeah.
5 years? You have those ratios. Can you send those to me?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then as far as the consultation agreement with Gallagher, how's that going to be structured? Is there going to be like an annual fee that we're going to pay them? Do we have to put that out for some sort of bid every so often? How will that work?
Yes and yes. It's up to us. It is a professional services agreement, so we can hire them directly, or if the direction is to go out for bid, we can do either one. Our commitment is to Gallagher at the moment. We've been working with them for 2 years. So we would like to commit with them and see this plan go out for a few years before we try to change a different vendor. But we can go either direction. So we will have an ongoing contract with them, which we currently do. They already support HR department with X. If we commit to this, we will have an amendment to their contract says every 2 to 3 years, we need this. And that will be an amendment to the contract in the budget presentation to you saying it's time, just like the city survey, it's time for this. Would you give us the funding so HR can move forward with this?
Mr. Mayor, just to follow up on that.
Councilman Pro.
So I might not have been clear on my question.
I
So
apologize.
currently, no, it's probably my asking. Currently, we have inconsistently done the compensation updates, and I think it was supposed to be every 5 years. That was kind of what HR expected. So what I'm asking is are we now going to have like an annual amount that we set aside in the budget to pay for professional services for this?
No, so this would be, again, our commitment is to update the market study every 3 years. So every 3 years, HR, myself or Robert will stand in front of council, go, we need X amount of dollars to complete X. Are you good with that? No different than our annual city survey or something. We will stand in front of you every 3 years.
And we currently do have we've always had an ongoing professional
We do.
services contract for these services. It's been with other companies in the past and it's switched to Gallagher recently.
Yep. Appreciate the questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland.
just comment, number one, you had mentioned it, that there's no perfect plan, and that's true. There's always rub somewhere with something. And it's one of those things. It's just the way it is. There's no perfect plan. But a couple things that I like about this, and I appreciate the group who worked on this. You guys are on the front lines of dealing with this issue. And I think number one, it allows us to be competitive and on those two fronts, one, to hire people, but also to retain people. And that's critical, especially in this market right now. It's difficult. And I think that goes a long ways to solving a serious problem that we have, and that's be competitive. So hopefully that will help. And then it's a future issue that I think it helps resolve, and that is being fiscally responsible for the future, not having that 13 to 15% increase that we had to swallow here recently. And, you know, and we may not be on council when they're dealing with this 10 years from now, and hopefully it works. Yes, there may be tweaks along the way, as you mentioned, Todd, but it's set up to allow for that and to hopefully keep us on track physically and not have some big issue that hits and you have to make some very serious and difficult budget decisions. So I think it overall is a really good plan and something I think appreciate your hard work that everyone invested into this.
I appreciate it. And I would agree that, you know, we're going to commit, you know, this plan to our employees and, you know, the committee members, even, you know, the previous HR to Crystal Ritchie with Christina Barnigan, we've all committed to being on this comp plan every single year. We're going to talk about it. You know, we're going to make this not disappear, not lose sight of it. And we dropped the ball a few times and we're going to make sure we commit to it. Yep.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
couple of just quick thoughts. And I think first, I think thanks to you, Mr. Mayor, because this was employee led. And I think that is something that is really, really critical. And I know in our conversations, sometimes there were things that maybe you or I didn't necessarily always agree on, but we really appreciate and value that it was our employees leading this effort on behalf of other employees. So putting on my former city of employee hat, I really appreciate that. There's a couple of things that I really do like about this and a couple of things that do give me a little bit of pause. The most important thing is that I think for our employees is that this is predictable. You know what your compensation is going to look like as you work for the city. It allows you to focus on continuing to do great work on behalf of our taxpayers and not always having to worry about does that extra effort mean more or less in your paycheck. That does bring the other side of the coin. You know, I'm always going to be concerned about how we're recognizing our top performing employees. The other piece that does give me a little bit of pause on is, well, to your point, Todd, it's like less than 1% of our current employees that would be maxed out for longevity. There's something to be really said for historical knowledge. And we've seen that on this council. We've seen that in this city. And my hope will be is that between now and 3 years from now is that the committee takes another look at longevity and making sure, you know, is $1,000 really the appropriate way to honor and recognize our long-term employees? I think we could do better than that. I'd like us to do better than that. I also think that serves as a strong incentive for our employees to stick with us and not just look at their service to the city in a 15-year window. So overall, I'm very, very pleased, but I look forward to the continuing work of you and the other committee members to continue to refine and to feel comfortable, at least from my perspective, to bring back recommendations, even if it's before 3 years from now. Particularly one of the pieces that I tend to worry about is, does this new plan, you know, if I'm an employee and kind of your point, Todd, I know what I'm going to make 10 years from now. Does that then become a floor or a basement for me to go out and seek employment in other places? And so I always worry that we're going to lose our top performing staff. While we want to always recruit great people, we also want to be able to retain them, and we'll continue to look for you for recommendations to be able to do that.
Appreciate the support on that, Luke. And again, I think the committee members, Mike, and we all agree that we can always continue to adapt and adjust this compensation plan for the city of Meridian every single year. If the $1,000 isn't right, let's talk about it. Let's find something that works for the city. What is the environment in 4 years? Adjust, adapt. Again, I think this committee and the commitment to their employees, we have to do that. And I think we can do that. And I believe the high performing people will always continue to be promoted. I think that's an automatic succession plan that, again, the HR department will support and promote to us to continue to foster and promote those high performing people every single day. But I agree with you, Luke, that this will not disappear. We will continue to talk about it every year, and we have to be able to adapt and adjust every single year. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Borton.
how does our existing policy speak to the elements that you had in your overview and goals slide?
Does the current policy?
Right.
Not exactly, no. So COLA was not like using COLA, 15-year step plan, no and no.
So what I think would be helpful for us and to avoid pivots in future years, it's a pretty big, the policy statements in the overview. I agree with, I understand how you got there. And it seems like it would be appropriate to memorialize those in a narrative policy for the council to formally adopt, that they seem to describe some principles of compensation that can consistently apply even if specific elements adjust from year to year, but the broad principles should guide and drive how it's administered over the next 10, 20 years. Is that something that,
I completely agree.
maybe that's part of the plan already?
Yeah, exactly. So you signed or you approved the contract for the city to engage with the compensation Gallagher. And in that contract says they're going to build a plan for us with all administration guidelines and administrative rules. We didn't want to have them build all that and then present it to you and go, well, I don't like it. Well, then I need a budget amendment because it's only good for one plan. We didn't ask them to build 5 plans. So we're looking for the principles so that we can go, hey, Mike, legal, HR, we got the principles. Let's build the guidelines. Let's build the rules. Let's build the policies so we can present to you for effective date, October 1, 2023.
Good.
So we agree with you. We have to have all this written out. We just don't want Mike to go through all the work and go, oh, we don't like the plan. Yeah.
And Councilman Born, in that context, I think the maybe thing that would be helpful for us is we could very quickly come back with a policy statement and get council's buy-in on the policy statement, which then would essentially enable us to apply the principles in the budget that we've established, understanding that we may not be till September or October before we actually have the underlying that we would come back and share with council at that point in time. But from a moving forward standpoint process, would that seem to work? And, I don't know that it'd take that long. Bill's, 2 weeks again, we could probably come back with something.
Mr. Mayor, I thought what you had in the overview described really broad brush the fundamental principles of this new plan, which made sense. I didn't hear any question from any of us up here about it. So that certainly would be some action we'd take. It's definitely different. There are trade-offs. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. I agree as well, but we recognize, one, listen to the employees and what fits best for them. It's a critical piece of it. So good work to the whole committee to kind of get us there using Mike's resources.
I appreciate it. Yeah, again, big kudos to Mike and the consulting company that we hired. Again, they're the guiding principle behind us. We hired a professional compensation consulting company. They guided us. They seeked feedback from us all the time. We had numerous meetings back and forth. And this is the result of Mike's guidance and the collaboration of us and of the employees. So I appreciate it.
Did I hear you say did you drop the ball? I heard the phrase drop the ball.
It wasn't me who dropped it. No.
Dean, can you read that back? I
Yeah,
thought that was the phrase I heard.
I think that was Scott Coliani who dropped the ball.
I dropped the ball.
Scott
Okay,
did.
that's just the only part that I picked up.
So council, here's what I would suggest, recommend is we can work on policy statement and bring back to council in hopefully 2 weeks. We'll shoot for that time frame from that standpoint. In the meantime, if there are additional questions, comments, continue to reach out and engage with Todd, et cetera. And we'll take, if council adopts the policy statement, that will be our sign that's in the budget, that's moving forward in that timeframe.
Okay.
And if it's not adopted at that point in time, then we will understand better from that standpoint. But if there are still challenges or concerns before we get to that, then please engage and have that direct conversation in the next, hopefully, week.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hoagland.
I think that's a good direction to go. Again, appreciate the work of the committee, and I would move that we adjourn our work session.
Councilwoman Pro, did you have any statement? I think she was waiting. I just want to, don't preclude.
Mr. Mayor, I do have additional questions, but like you said, there are questions I can get answered, meeting with finance that get into the nuts and bolts at that time. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, with that, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. And for being here and for all the work.
Thank you very much. You guys are-
Council will call the meeting to order. For the record, it is April 4th, 2023 at 6:04 PM. We will begin this regular city council meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Farrow.
Here.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Here, sorry about that.
Councilman Borton.
Here.
Councilman Hoagland.
Here.
Mayor Simison.
Here. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Y'all please rise and join us in the pledge. Next up is our community invocation, which tonight will be delivered by Pastor Vinny Hankey. If you would all please join us in the community invocation or take this as a moment of silence and reflection.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, once again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and pray before you in your meeting. God, I thank you for the city of Meridian. I thank you for the council members, and humbly and simply ask tonight that you would give them wisdom and discernment as they lead faithfully. We pray for protection and blessing upon all those who serve our community, our teachers, our law enforcement, our emergency services, God, as they serve on the front lines to serve us. We ask that you would help the city to be a place of kindness and love where each neighbor would bring, God, goodness to the area around them. We ask these things for your glory and our good through Christ. Amen. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Thank you. Happy Easter. Okay. Next time up is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland.
we have no changes to our agenda this evening, so I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is agreed to. Next up will be a proclamation that we'll be doing for the Idaho Association. Idaho Associations for the Education of Young Children. If I could have Rachel and Richard join us at the podium.
Oh, you're going to be on this side.
Yeah, sorry, we'll. This way everyone can see, so smile for the camera from that standpoint. But we'll go ahead and read the proclamation and I'll let you guys both speak about the importance of this week in terms of your organization that you spend your time with. So whereas the city of Meridian is in conjunction with the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children, Idaho AEYC, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 1st through 7th, 2023. And whereas this organization is working to promote and inspire high-quality early childhood experiences for our state's youngest citizens that can provide a foundation of learning and success for children in Meridian. And whereas teachers and others who work with or on behalf of young children from birth through age 8 makes a difference in these lives and deserve thanks and recognition. And whereas public policy supporting early learning for all are crucial to young children's futures and to prosperity of our society. And whereas this is a time to recognize the importance of children's earliest years in shaping their development and to recommit ourselves to ensuring that each and every child experiences the type of environment at home, at childcare, at school, and in the community that will promote early learning. Therefore, I, Mayor Robert E. Simison, hereby proclaim April 1st through 7th, 2023 to be the Week of the Young Child in the city of Meridian, encouraging all citizens to work to support the efforts of the Idaho AEYC and NAEYC and support and invest in early childhood in our community this 4th day of April, 2023. So on behalf of myself and the city council and the city of Meridian, thank you for all you're doing. And we look forward to hearing about the great efforts that you all are undertaking.
Can we get a picture?
We
We're gonna
will do that.
Hey,
Right
we
after-
need a
right
picture,
after-
guy.
right after you say your words, we will do a picture.
All right, thank you. My name is Richard, and I am the Member Outreach Coordinator for the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children. It's a nonprofit with the world's longest nonprofit name, and we're affiliate of the National Association of the Education of Young Children. And what we are dedicated to is advocating for early learning, young children, and people who work with young children. And that is a huge range of things. One of the things we focus on is early literacy and just making sure that our youngest learners are taken care of. And we're imagining an Idaho where all children thrive.
Hi, my name is Rachel Flashbart. I'm the Director of Development over at the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children. We just want to thank you guys so much for proclaiming this week. It's really important. I know it is a long name. I'm new and I'm still working on saying it, but it's extremely important. So we just appreciate all you guys are doing to support. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Official.
Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone sign up under public forum this evening?
Mr. Mayor, we did not.
Okay, then we will go on to action items. Item 2 is a public hearing for community input on Meridian's Community Development Block Grant Program Action Plan. So I will open the public hearing and invite Ms. Campbell to say some few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you said, I'm here today to ask for input on our action plan. We are inviting people to give us input a little bit earlier in the year this time. Instead of doing it at the Caper when we do our public hearing, we decided to do it ahead of time so people can actually give us some input on some potential partners that they would like to see us make some arrangements with or agree potentially apply for funding for the action plan. So that is what we are hoping to get out of it today. And just a reminder, this is a CDBG program. It's a HUD program. So the focus is housing stability. Any of the projects that we have, whether it's public service or public facility, it needs to tie back to housing stability. It's also for people with low to moderate incomes, and it's also for Meridian residents. So we can't serve anybody who lives outside of the Meridian city limits. There are 3 guiding documents for our CDBG program. The first one is the 5-year consolidated plan. And during this process, we reach out to the community and we ask them to help us figure out what the goals are for the upcoming 5 years. Then every year we submit an annual action plan, which is essentially an application for the funding every year. And we identify how we're going to reach those goals. And then at the end of the year, we do our CAPER, which tells our progress toward the goals. So we do have a public service application open right now. It opened on April 1st and it will close on the 30th. And we are asking the community that is affected by this grant. So that would be Meridian residents and people who are low to moderate income to give us some feedback. We want to make sure that the con plan stays relevant and that we're continuing to meet the needs. And we're also wanting to check in with people and make sure that the services we've provided funding for in the past, that they were able to access them and what that experience was like. And we also want to identify other potential partnerships that if there's a service that is needed and it's not able to be accessed in Meridian, then we can reach out to them and see if they can apply for our funding. We have 3 different project types. The first one is public facility and infrastructure improvements. And for this in the upcoming action plan, then we're working on a project that will improve sidewalks and streetlights in the low mod area. For housing, we are working with a provider that will be offering homebuyer assistance and homeowner repair. And what we're here today for is for the public service application. We're looking for ways to seek partnerships, and potential projects that we've funded in the past are things like emergency rental assistance and childcare scholarships. So people are able to provide us feedback at in a number of locations. just a quick rundown of our timeline. As I mentioned, the application opened on the 1st, and tonight we're opening the public hearing. We're also doing a presentation at the Meridian Gathering and Resource Center on April 8th. So that's another place where people can come and have one-on-one conversations and give feedback. The April 12th application workshop, that is for nonprofits who are interested in applying for the funding. And then on April 18th, I'll be back before council so we can close the public hearing. And then on April 30th, the application closes. So if people have questions, they can reach out to me. The best way is probably my email at ccampbell@meridiancity.org. And sometimes when people are thinking about giving feedback, it's kind of hard to know what to say. So we also created a brief little survey so that people can just go in and answer questions. And the questions are really about what services they've received in the past, if they were easy to access, and if there's other services that they wish they could receive in Meridian. So this QR code, if people scan it, then they can go directly to that. And there's also a handout in the back that has it printed. Although I don't, anybody's going to take that. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Crystal. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
Crystal, you had mentioned that you're actively reaching out and seeking other applicants. Can you share what you're doing as part of that process?
We have a distribution list of nonprofits that we send out an email to. We are also putting it on different group lists that have funding announcements. So we're reaching out directly for the most part to nonprofits we've worked with in the past and other ones we know provide services in Meridian.
Council, any additional questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to provide testimony on this item? Seeing none. Council, do I have a motion to continue the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
I move that we continue the public hearing for community input on Meridian's Community Development Block Grant Program through April 18th. Do we have to continue it every meeting? So do we just continue it to next week and then next week the following?
I think we were just going to continue to take public testimony on the 18th.
Okay.
I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, and a second to continue the public hearing until the 18th. Is there any discussion? If not, in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is continued to the 18th. Thank you, Crystal. So with that, we will move on to our ordinance this evening. First up is item 3, which is ordinance number 23-2012. Ask the clerk to read this ordinance by title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an ordinance related to McDermott Village, H 2022-0056, annexing the southeast quarter of Section 32, Township 4 North, Range 1 West, Boise Meridian, Ada County, Idaho. More particularly described in Exhibit A, rezoning 40.05 acres of such real property from RUT to R15, 17.12 acres, medium high density residential zoning district, R40, 15.85 acres, high density residential zoning district, and CG, 7.08 acres, general retail and service commercial zoning district. Directing city staff to alter all applicable use and area maps, as well as the official zoning maps and all official maps depicting the boundaries and the zoning districts of the city of Meridian in accordance with this ordinance, providing that copies of this ordinance shall be filed with the Ada County Assessor, the Ada County Treasurer, the Ada County Recorder, and the Idaho State Tax Commission as required by law, repealing conflicting ordinances and providing an effective date.
Thank you, council. You've heard this ordinance read by title. Is there anybody that would like it read in its entirety? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
I move that we approve ordinance number 23-2012.
I have a motion, and a second to approve ordinance number 23-2012. Is there any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Overton.
Aye.
Burrow.
Aye.
Cavanagh.
Aye.
Horton. Hoagland.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries, and the item is agreed to. Next up is item 4, which is ordinance number 23-2013. Ask the clerk to read this ordinance by title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an ordinance related to Franklin annexation, H 2022-0090, annexing the northeast quarter of section 17, township 3 North, range 1 East, Boise Meridian, city of Meridian, Ada County, Idaho. More particularly described in Exhibit A, rezoning 2.53 acres of such real property from R2 to CC zoning district, directing city staff to alter all applicable use and area maps, as well as the official zoning maps and all official maps depicting the boundaries and zoning districts of the city of Meridian in accordance with this ordinance. Providing the copies of this ordinance shall be filed with the Ada County Assessor, the Ada County Treasurer, the Ada County Recorder, and the Idaho State Tax Commission as required by law, repealing conflicting ordinances and providing an effective date.
Thank you, council. You've heard this ordinance read by the title. Was there anybody that'd like it read in its entirety? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Pearl.
I move that we approve ordinance number 23-2013.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve ordinance number 23-2013. Is there any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Overton. Perot.
Aye.
Cavanagh.
Aye.
Horton. Hoagland.
All ayes, motion carries, and the item is agreed to. Council, anything under future meeting topics? Where do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor, before I make the motion, don't forget Initial Point is still having their open house for another short while. If you want to go up there and see the new exhibits. And I move that we adjourn.
Or before you adjourn, is there anything else that we'd like to add to the record from that's happened in the last week?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the
Councilman
reminder.
Hoagland.
We want to congratulate Councilwoman Liz Strader on the birth of her twins, boy and a girl. And okay, I got to remember Ezra
and Ava.
Yes. And also congratulations to Chris, her husband, for these new additions to the family, and mother and babies are doing well.
As well as brother and sister.
Yes.
In addition, so congratulations, Liz. So with that, we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.